welcome back to Cash Flow. I'm Pam Prior, your host, and today we're going to talk about that pesky word, enough. And it's come to mind because of some work I was doing with a client literally this week as we're planning for 2026. And what we realized, and actually a very good mentor of mine explained this to me once, and I've always thought about it this way since, is everyone always wants more. We always want, to get from 1 million to 10 million, or 50,000 to 100,000, or make that next salary bump, or get that next promotion. We always want that more. And it's important, but what if there's real power in knowing what enough is? So instead of just saying more, really defining for yourself, what is the target I want or need to hit? And we're going to hit a framework here that's going to let you build that number for yourself, because I think it's really important. So I want you to hang on through this. In the meantime, if you like this topic, do me a favor, hit like, subscribe, share this link with a couple friends who are entrepreneurs, because this is something every single one of us as small business people should go through pretty much periodically, but it certainly comes to mind like now when we're doing the planning for next year with a number of our clients. And the key here is that always having more puts you on a treadmill. It's never going to end, because more is always going to be out there ahead of you, and you're always going to be treadmilling to get to it. But if you stop and you say, hey, this is the point I want to get to, then oh, that's where I'm going. And you're not constantly, say you get through that and blow through it, you can set another goal if you want to, but I'm going to tell you a story here about a client who literally realized, oh my God, I don't want to do that. And there are a number of factors that kind of build into that. So let's get you off the treadmill. You want to build a business that gives you freedom, right? Not everybody else. We're in this because we want either financial, personal, emotional, whatever freedom. We didn't want to work in the corporate world. So let's make sure that you're getting that and not building yourself a whole new prison to live in that just happens to be where you're the employer instead of somebody you don't know. So this particular entrepreneur that I'm talking about was a very successful 7-figure business. And it was at that break point. It was about 6 or 7 million. And they're like, okay, I want to hit 10 million next year. And at the first, we just kind of said, okay, let's go through the exercise. And we mapped it out and we said, okay, let's do it. And as we're having the conversation about all the things we needed to put in place to get there, I could see them kind of like starting to push back in their chair a little bit and sink a little bit. And their shoulders kind of shrumped a little bit. Shrumped. That's a special word, but we'll use it anyway. And I'm like, what's happening here? I said, we've outlined this. And two things happened. Financially, something important happened. We got to $10 million, but their bottom line only increased by 100,000 based on everything they would have had to do under today's infrastructure to make that happen, to make that growth of $3 million, or really 50% on the money they were making. And because it required putting a big infrastructure in place to get there. Going from 7 to $10 million is a big, big leap. So because of this, I mapped it out for them. I said, okay, this next $4 million is only adding $100,000 to your bottom line, and it's adding X number of new employees, this much new equipment. You're going to need to get an office space. You're going to need to make sure you stay still and live where you're living for the next however long. And by the time we got there, I said, this strikes me as what we call success without clarity. In other words, we've defined success as more. So, okay, we're there, but there's no clarity around what that means. So we actually stepped back from it and said, okay, what is it that you're really after here? And this is where the framework came into place, because I kind of asked him, what is it that makes you feel you want to get to $10 million? And he said, I'll feel like I can breathe. A lot of entrepreneurs, very many of us, always feel like, the next day we're going to be broke again. Something's going to happen. The economy, the environment, something's going to happen. We're going to be broke again tomorrow. So in his mind, getting to 10 million got him sort of past that hurdle. And then I said, okay, that's good, but what else is it going to add to your life? And we started to list the things. And there was no positive, right? I made enough was the positive. But when we listed all the other things it was going to add, supervision, management, hiring, having to put in systems to do receipt and invoice tracking, chasing down receivables, all the different things that it was going to add. He's like, oh my God, that's going to take away from my life way more than I want to put in, way more than I want for this business. It's going to build, basically, he said, a golden prison for me. So we talked through how do I know what enough is? Like, if I don't want to get to 10 million, what is it that I do want? And there's a framework that we put together to work through this, and I want to share that with you. And it's really asking 4 questions right off the bat. In defining your enough, which is what we need to do here, there are 4 things you want to consider. So there's your personal enough, there's your business enough, there's your safety buffer enough, and there's your future enough. And I'm going to walk through the 4 of those and what they are individually. And we want to add those up, find out what that number is, and recognize, hey, when we hit that number, I can stop the sprint. I can drop into a marathon pace. I can start to enjoy those things that I've built up instead of just chasing whatever the next flag is down the road that may or may not even interest you. So what is your personal enough? This I talk about in a lot of mindset videos and have a different twist on enough than most people. So for your personal enough, we all, believe it or not, have defined boundaries for ourselves. We've defined a level below which we will never fall financially. And believe it or not, we've defined a boundary above which we're never going to let ourselves rise. Okay? And it all came from when we were 7 years old. And I have plenty of videos on that, so you can go back and talk through it, and maybe I'll refresh them later, a little bit about mindset. But what I want you to do, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to add up all my bills, I'm going to add up, that I have to pay my kids' college or whatever it might be, I want you to add all that stuff up. But then, what are the next 2 or 3 things that if life were great for you, you would do or be able to do? And then I want you to take that enough bar that you've set for your personal enough and raise it to that. So here's an example. Say that it costs me $5,000 a month to live my life and cover all my needs. Let's say $8,000 a month to cover all the needs. It gets my mortgage, my food on the table, my dog's fed, my etc., whatever my needs are. But then I really wished I had a dishwasher because it would save me so much time. Well, if I wanted a dishwasher, that would cost me $1,000, and I'd be on a payment plan for 12 months, and I'd need another, $100, $200 a month to be added. I'm going to add that to my enough. What's the next thing? I want to do 2 vacations a year, and that's going to cost me, $3,000 each. So I want to add an extra $1,000 to my enough a month. So don't just grab your bare necessities. Grab your bare necessities plus some new and fresh things that would make you really happy about your life. Okay? So that's your personal enough. That's number 1. What is that number? The second one, what is your business enough? And by that we mean, what do you have to cover the operating expenses in your business? What do you have to have so that you can have the staff in place that you need, that you have the time you need to be able to deliver your very best? And this usually turns into what we call expenses if you're talking about your financial statements. So here's what you need to get out of the business. Here's what your business needs to get out of the business. And the third thing is, what's your safety margin? So this is the amount of money you want to make over and above what you need personally, over and above what you need to run in the business, but that gives you that buffer we've often talked about on this podcast of 3, 4, 5, 6 months of a buffer for your expenses, just in case for whatever reason your revenue completely disappeared. So you're going to add that to it. And then the fourth thing you're going to add is, what and when do I want to retire or stop doing this or sell the business? And at that point, what kind of money do I need in place to be able to do that? And over what period of time am I going to have to earn that money? And you add that to the table. So what you've done is you said, okay, I need to make this much a year in order to cover my personal needs, plus my couple extra little perks that I want, to pay for what I need to pay to run the business, to have enough left over to maintain a safety buffer, and to build for the longer term, whatever's next in the longer term. And once you know those numbers, that's the number you have to have in revenue in order to get there. And if most people that I deal with think about that, that actual number doesn't exceed 8 figures. Okay? Now, I'm not discouraging you from becoming that person who scales their business to 9 figures, 10 figures. That's awesome. That is another game, though, okay? That's deciding that you're going to run a medium-sized business. You want to own that. Maybe it's something you want to sell shares in. You're an investor more than somebody who runs the business. That's a whole nother ballgame. I'm talking about those of us who are small businesses, intend to stay small businesses, and some people call it a lifestyle business when you set that maximum. And I don't think that's a horrible thing to call it. You know, does this business need to do so that I can have the lifestyle I want to have? And as the business owner, that's really, really what you deserve. So I want to take sort of the bad juju off the word enough. Enough doesn't mean that you're scrimping or you're shrinking your business or whatever it might be. Enough is, what is enough to make me happy? Okay, in what I'm doing, in how I'm living my life. And it's really freedom, right? You're not shrinking your business, you're building your freedom. But then once you know that number, say that number is $1 million in your business. When you get there, stop chasing, okay? Unless you get that urge to, become, the next level and really want to do that for different reasons. You can stop when you're there. That doesn't mean you don't change with the world and you don't change with the times and you don't incorporate new technology and you're not agile and all the things you need to be $1 million business. And maybe that goes up a little with inflation every year. But you're not trying to get to that next thing. You're not always chasing. There's a point where you might be able to say, if you're this kind of personality, I've made it to where I want to make it to be doing the things I love. You'll have financial freedom, you'll have family freedom, you'll have friend freedom, you'll have all of the freedoms you want that so few entrepreneurs actually end up getting because they stay in that chase. So for this week, do me a favor, write down those four enoughs for you. Your personal enough, your business enough, your safety buffer enough, and your future enough. Add them all up, see what it comes to. That's the target you want to set for yourself as you start to think about 2026. Don't just do more. Don't just pull a number out of the air and say, if I'm 6, I need to be 10, or if I'm 5, I need to be 7. Think about what really makes sense for you, and let's make 2026 the year that your business and your life align to make you happy. That's what we're after. You have a great week, and we'll see you on the next Cash Flow.